So today I wanted to talk to you guys about pets and some advice about getting them. And the reason I wanted to talk about this is because I saw a very sad story today. One of my friends recently got a puppy and it died 2 days after they got it because it got very sick. So I'd like to give some advice to people who are trying to get animals to hopefully help to prevent this and also make people more aware. I get a lot of my pets from societies, and I don't think that you have to get one from a society, but a lot of my pets are society or rescue animals. And the one thing I will say, if you do get an animal from a breeder or from someone off of Craigslist or Facebook, you should see if they have medical records for that animal. The second thing is if it's a puppy that is of the weaning age, they're typically their first shots that are very important. The parvo is the one they typically get. So you want to make sure that they had their first shots. And if they're over 8 weeks, if they're close to their second shot time, then you want to make sure that they have that as well. And if they don't have that, then I would advise that you do not get the puppy unless the person has notified you that they do not have these shots. And even then, only if they have the parents' medical history and the parents are healthy. Because odds are, if the parents are not healthy or if they are not keeping up shots with the parents, then the puppy will also not be healthy or will be at higher risk of getting sick. If you do get it for someone who claims to be a breeder, you want to check that they have a breeder's permit or a breeder's license. Which, depending on your city or state, the rules will differ for that. But regardless, you want someone who knows what they're doing and can show evidence of that, because it gets very risky when you get it from someone who doesn't know what they're doing, or B, only cares about the money. And that's a huge issue in general with cats, dogs, and birds. With birds, it's not as bad, but it is very bad with the cats and the dogs, especially the dogs. The dogs probably get the worst end of it. But I do know that there are pros and cons to however you decide to get your animals. For instance, if you get them from a society or rescue, typically they already come spayed and neutered. Typically they already come with their shots. There's also places like PetSmart who have adoption days, and a lot of times those pets also come with those benefits. If you get a second-hand animal, you want to see if the person has been keeping up with all of that, because if they haven't, there's a higher risk that the animal is going to live a shorter time. Now, I want to tell you a little bit about some of my pets so that it can help you be aware of some of the pros and cons of both. For example, if you get an animal from rescue, it may or may not be very well behaved. And it's not because the animal's a bad animal, it just has to do with their history. A lot of animals that have been given to rescues have either been given up by the owner, or they have been confiscated from the owner by the police because of them being in an abusive situation. Now, a lot of times the animals that have been handed over on accord are better off than the ones that have come from abusive situations. The ones that have come from abusive situations typically are going to be more aggressive. And a lot of times there will be some type of label on their cage or describing their behavior patterns or things you need to be aware of, whether or not they're good with their animals or not. Now, I actually got a cat, my very first cat I got from the pound. And her story was very sad. They had found her in a trash bag. And she was the only cat out of all the cats that were in this trash bag to survive. And so she was very scared of humans. She used to scratch and claw at pretty much anyone. And it took her about a year before she trusted me. And I loved her so much when I had her, and it was so nice to have her, because eventually she did trust me, and eventually she did become calm, because much like people, anyone can be saved and anyone can change. This goes for animals as well. My second cat that I also got from a rescue, her name was Lila. She was less traumatized, but she also had issues. And it was more like she was picky. And I think that's more like her and not so much her background. But I do know that she was the only kitten out of the kittens they found that survived. But I think the reason she was more docile and more easily to get attached is because when I got her from the society I got her from, and this one was a private society, it wasn't a humane society, it was a private rescue, and they go through like a series of interviews before they allow you to take the animal, and then they allow you to meet the animal, and depending on how the animal likes you, so the animal actually gets to choose you, then they decide whether or not you are fit to own this animal. And so I took her home, and she was a lot calmer and more friendly because she had been hand fed. Now, my last cat is my own rescue project because I myself sometimes rescue animals. So please, if you find me Siamese, do not bring them to my house because I will probably keep them. I'm terrible about Siamese cats. I fall in love with them instantly. I actually fall in love with animals in general, and there's most of my rescue animals, though, I have found them good homes afterwards. And a number of you that are on my Facebook have gotten pets from me, in fact. And I like when you guys tell me how they're doing and how they have grown. Like, that makes me so happy that they found their forever homes. And now let's get into breeders, because some of my pets, well, these are actually not mine, but my sister has some purebred Pomeranians, and they did come from breeders that are certified. And the Pomeranians, they came with their shots. And I remember the first one we got that we do not have anymore. His name was Momo. He lives with one of our friends now. And Momo actually came with information regarding that he was pedigreed. A lot of breeders have that option. Some of them will have that like straight up, like, okay, we'll give you the certificate of breed and stuff. Others will be like, we'll charge an additional fee. It really depends on the breeder and where they get their dogs from and how they choose to breed them. A lot of breeders will compete, and if their dogs are competing, then their dogs already have all of that. But if a breeder who is certified is mixing and making half-breeds, then they may not have those autistic degrees, and then they have to go and pay for them to get verified of their breed. So it's very important to talk to the breeders if you decide to go with a breeder. I'm not going to say anything hateful about breeders because not all breeders are evil puppy mill owners. That is a misconception. Real good breeders, a lot of times have a lot of respect for science, and they do it because of the genetics. They breed the dogs for the breed to be enhanced and to be bettered, not for the many. Now, the puppy mills, which are a very bad thing, and if you do find a puppy mill, you should report it immediately to the authorities, because those poor dogs are forced to breed and are forced to suffer, and it's so sad. It really is. And a lot of times those puppies are not healthy. A lot of times those puppies do not have shots. And then you have people that randomly have 2 dogs that are purebreds, and they will breed them, and then they will sell them on Craigslist. And these puppies will be sick and not come with shots. And that is also bad. And I fear that that's what happened to my friend, is that either this person did not know what they were doing, or they just cared about the money. And it's so sad because that puppy had to suffer for it. And that's just not right. That puppy deserved to live a long life. But because of this seller's carelessness, this puppy did not make it to term. And judging by the picture of this puppy, I'm assuming that puppy was not even old enough to be weaned and wasn't really 8 weeks old. I will tell you from experience that when a dog gets bred, regardless if they're 8 weeks, it is the breeder's responsibility to make sure that that animal is truly able to be weaned. Because I remember one time we had an accident litter, and with that accident litter, these puppies, we couldn't wean them until they were 10 weeks because they were not ready when they were 8 weeks. It's much like a baby. A baby, although it has its perfect time frame as when it should be weaned, it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be weaned. And then I have birds too, and that's the same thing. Sometimes they're going to be ready to be weaned right on time, and sometimes they're not. And it's very important that the person who is raising that puppy engage that before they let that puppy go to its forever home. That is that person's responsibility. Because if they see that that puppy is not ready to leave its mother and it still needs its mother, then that's where it should be. Now, I cannot confirm that. That's just a theory based on the photos. The other theory is that maybe the puppy had an illness. But I think the first thing is more probable, that the puppy was not young and old enough to be weaned, and also that because it wasn't old enough, it was more susceptible to diseases. And also, I just think that it's really sad what happened, and I really hope that the next time my friend decides to get a dog, that they have better luck, or if it ends up being a cat, that they'll have better luck with the cat. But I really felt like this is a video that needed to be said, and I know it's really long, but I myself rescue animals, like I said, so I know a lot about them. And when I was a kid, I was a geek. Like, I was constantly reading about foxes. I was constantly reading about cheetahs, lions, and how to cut birds' wings. My animals were my best friends growing up, because believe it or not, I can be an introvert a lot of times. So like if I ever leave a social gathering early, it's probably because I'm going into my little bubble and I need my space. So now you've also learned a little bit about me, but animals have always been an escape for me, and I have a lot of passion and love for them, as well as nature. And so it breaks my heart that so many people in this world they don't care. And it doesn't just hurt for the poor puppy, it hurts for the person who adopted that puppy, because I'm sure that my friend got very attached, and I'm sure that his partner got very attached to this puppy too. And so it's just like, the animals, they're more than just pets. They're family. And they have feelings, and I'm sure within that short time that puppy fell in love with them. And so be careful where you get your pets from, and always treat your pets with respect and love, because they are your family and they have feelings too. I love you guys. Bye.